Hey, welcome back to the show. Show's called Your Money or Wealth. Joe Anderson here. Big Al's over there. We're talking about sabotaging your retirement. Earlier, we talked about buying that boat or maybe that RV or moving to a state that you've probably never been to in your overall retirement. Those are probably not the best moves. Then we looked at, hey, how much money should I be taking from my account? What does that portfolio should look like? Am I making mistakes in regards to taxes? Now let's focus on the later side of your overall retirement. But before we get there, let's see how you did on that true false.
If you claim Social Security at 62, you'll be automatically enrolled in Medicare. True or false? Well, that's not true. That's false because Medicare doesn't actually happen until age 65.
Right, there's this gap. If you retire at 62, you're 65, right? So you got private health care that's going to have to cover you. So are you calculating that in your overall strategy? So it's like, all right, well, here, I'm going to claim my Social Security as early as I can. I'm going to retire at 62 because now I have that fixed income. But they forget, oops, I got a pretty big expense that I didn't necessarily realize that's going to be on top of my living expenses, travel expense, and everything else.
Yeah, and it gets tricky sometimes because you're thinking, okay, I'm going to claim, maybe my spouse will claim Social Security later. Maybe I have a pension that starts later. So I go ahead and I retire. I start collecting Social Security. My expenses are higher. My income's lower. Then I start going through my portfolio, and next thing you know, Joe, is by the time I start getting better income, I've used a lot of it up.
Yes, sir. Let's look at Social Security claiming strategies here. Let's say 67 is your full retirement age. You're going to receive $2,000 per month. All right, $24,000 a year. If I decide to claim it at 62, well, I will receive a permanent haircut. But if I wait until age 70, I'm going to receive $2,500 a month. So this is the game that you have to play. If you know when you're going to die, it's pretty easy. But most people like to take it, most advisors, I think, like to say, hey, take this thing out as far that you can because you're going to lock in the highest benefit. But I think it's up to you. What is your overall health? How much capital do you have? Most people take it early, even though it's suggested to take it later.
Yeah, and whether you should take it early or late, it really depends upon your own situation. What you might want to do, if you need the cash flow, but if one spouse had made more money than the other spouse, maybe you delay the spouse that made more money because that will be a higher benefit for the both of you for the rest of your life.
Long-term care, medical expenses, we're living a lot longer, which is the good news. The bad news is that we're living a lot longer. Because we're living a lot longer, some of us, or most of us, could get into a long-term care stay, right? And it's not cheap. So if I have a private room in a nursing home care, it's $10,000 a month on average. Depends on where you live. If you live in Southern California, New York, Miami or whatever, these prices are all over the board. So you want to make sure that you understand you have the capital here to help provide you this type of income to help with any type of private room. Just assisted living is half that, a little bit more than half.
I can tell you from experience with my mom, it can be higher. It actually can be a lot higher. So just think about that.
One thing to consider too with this is that you're not necessarily, we're not telling you to buy long-term care insurance. You just need to have a long-term care plan. Right? Where's the capital going to come from? Because you're not necessarily planning for you that is going in, you're probably planning for your surviving spouse. Because they could drain most of the assets to provide for your care while you might have a surviving spouse that is running out of capital that could have a lot longer life expectancy. Let's talk about estate planning.
So many people, it's like 50% of the people out there at least, die without a will or a trust or without appropriate powers of attorney. What happens if that's the case? Well, your assets will likely go through probate, and how they'll be distributed is in accordance with the state law, not how you want it. Make sure at least you have a will. With a will, you'll still go through probate likely. A trust, you'll avoid probate, and then you have much more say on where those assets go. And maybe even more importantly, make sure you have the powers of attorney for healthcare and financial in case you need some help down the line.
Yeah, I mean, if you get sick, you probably need healthcare power of attorney, medical directives, things like that. Depending on what state that you live is going to depend on what type of overall estate plan that you should have. But you just want to make sure that you're educated on what documents that you need just to make sure that it is smooth sailing because it's a pretty stressful time, as you could imagine, and you just want to make sure that you have your financial affairs in order. All right, let's switch gears. Let's take some questions from all of you.
This is Kristen from Tacoma. My husband and I recently retired with enough money to last until we pass. Should we just get out of the stock market now? Great question. So when you have plenty of money, and I don't know what the dollars are, so I can't really say for sure, but if you have plenty of money that you'll never really need, then you can actually go either way. You can get out of the market if you're uncomfortable with the market because you don't need to take the risk. On the other hand, if the money's not for you, if it's for your kids or your beneficiaries, maybe you stay in the market, let it grow for them. So it's a very individualized thing.
Yeah, that's well said. Is what is the dollars for? What does that portfolio need to do? And what's the calculations that you ran in regards to making sure that you have enough money, right? Did you put some caveats in there such as long-term care, and illness, or maybe you do want to buy your dream home or the boat, whatever. Make sure that you're super tight on the numbers. What are you using for assumptions in regards to rate of return? So if you're fine saying that, hey, we have enough money, but you use the 6 or 7% rate of return on your assumptions, well, if you go into cash is going to pay a lot less than that. So it's just dialing in your overall strategy. We have very little information, but yeah, I agree with Al. If you don't want to take the risk, don't take the risk if you don't have to. Right? But if you don't need the money and you want to leave a legacy to the next generations, well, you might want to lever the time that you have to take advantage of higher returns that will give you more risk. But if you don't need the money anyway, then right, who cares about the volatility?
It's a more personal choice. So Jim from Solana Beach asks, now that I'm retired, I have too much free time and I'm driving my wife crazy. Any suggestions? Okay, Jim, maybe a little part-time job to get out of the house, or maybe you play a little more golf, or maybe you volunteer, right? Some separation. I'm taken from a guy who's been married 36 years. Love our time together, but separation is important to keep a relationship strong. You like that?
I love that. Here's my 2 cents. Is before you retire, you have to have communication with your spouse, your significant others. You just please have that meeting or have that conversation, because I think a lot of times people get on the different sides or they have different assumptions of what the other one really wants. Right? There was a survey that was done, and they surveyed men and they surveyed women, and then they asked the men. They were like, "Hey, what do you want to do when you retire?" And number one choice was spend more time with my spouse, spend more time with my wife. And then they surveyed the wife, the females. Where do you think spending more time with my husband was on the list? It was like it didn't even make the top 10. Okay, what did we learn? Unrealistic expectations, right? You just want to make sure that you have the appropriate expectations. Market misses, right? What does that portfolio look like? Are you doing things appropriately with the money to give you the goal or give you the income that you want? And then, of course, there's always different planning missteps along the way. That's it for us today. Go to our website, yourmoneyyourwealth.com, and click on that special offer. It's our retirement readiness guide. Get ready for retirement, folks, with our help. Yourmoneyyourwealth.com. For Big Al Clopine, I'm Joe Anderson. We'll see you next time.